Hey everyone! At the Fearless Schools Podcast Fun Factory with Creative Leadership Solutions, we pride ourselves on delivering consistently awesome podcast episodes for your ear holes and your cranial cookie jars. As you know, what we bring, the best thinkers, the most creative leaders, the pinnacle of pedagogical thought giants, you name it, we bring it. That means that we sometimes bring people back for a return trip because there just wasn't enough time and space in one episode to capture all of their amazing awesomeness. And today, dear friends and neighbors, it's one of those days. That's right. But before we get to our special guest, there's another special person with us today, and that's the Director of Professional Learning with CLS. It's Dr. Ann McCarty. What's up, Dr. Ann?
I wanted to do my best on a pirate talk, but I'm not. I don't want to embarrass myself, so I'm excited because I didn't get to be on the first one. I got to listen to it, so
that is true.
I'm just happy to be here, Drew.
Hey, well, you know what? We are glad that you are sailing the high seas with us. No, I'm not going to go there. No. All right. So, hey, but anyways, I'm Dr. Drew Tomlin, your Fearless Schools podcast host and current school administrator, and I'm happy as a clam to tell you that today's guest is a repeater, an eager returner, dare I say a proud double dipper in our podcast, Guacamole. That's right, I dare say that. You know this guy because he's a nonstop force in the educational realm, author, speaker, keynoter, publisher, all-purpose room energizer, pirate on the many teaching seas out there. It's the one and only Mr. Dave Burgess. What's happening, Dave Burgess?
Hey, Drew and Ann, it's great to join you, and I'm glad that you're here. I know you missed last time, so I just feel a little safer with you being a part of this now. You leave Drew and me alone, and you never know what's going to happen, and so I appreciate you being here to bring a little sanity to the discussion.
Right, sanity and hair. Let's just be honest, like two aerodynamically cranial people, it's dangerous on a podcast.
We can fly through space with great speeds with our head.
That is true. We can change all kinds of dimensions. So, no, seriously, thank you for joining us on the Fearless Schools podcast once again. Let me say, you seriously set the stage and set the podcast guest bar very high for the rest of our guests on the road after you as being one of our inaugural guests. So thank you so much. So listen, for our first episode, which, your first episode, which really everyone should go back and listen to. Just be honest, it was awesome. You told us about your favorite food, so we got that covered. So we can either revisit that question, like if you have a new food that you love, or you can tackle a new revealing question. Which do you want to choose, food or new revealing question?
I want a new revealing question, but I do want to go to mention something from your introduction. You mentioned that I was something about some double dipping and guacamole thing, and just so the world knows,
yes,
I would absolutely never double dip into guacamole. I would never touch guacamole, and because to me, guacamole is one of the most disgusting things that's ever been invented in the history of the world. And the only thing that's even close to it in that category is salsa. I also do not do salsa. Very controversial opinion right there. I understand. But that's
yes. Okay. I was going to say, and I'm not trying to reveal your geographic location, but you're a West Coast San Diego person. Is that correct?
I was born and raised in San Diego. I'm in Vancouver, Washington now, but so to say something against guacamole is like almost sacrilegious.
I was going to say.
Nevertheless, yeah.
But you know what? That's what makes it. There you go. That's what makes you a unique individual. You're not just going to conform to the guacamole community. You're going to set a
I have a set of rules. I have a set of rules about food, and one of the key rules is I don't eat anything green except mint chip ice cream.
Awesome. Well,
so green is now a food category, and you're actually joined by Doug Reeves on that too. He doesn't eat green either. So
there
you go. Well, it's nice to know that you're not.
That's good company right there. That's good company.
It is. You're not a carnivore. No, you're a carnivore, not an herbivore.
Yeah, I absolutely am. T-Rex from way back.
Just longer arms. Okay, so listen.
Arms, yes.
Yeah. So listen. Since we're tackling a new question, then, what is your? Because we both have similar hair, issues going on. Not an issue. It's just a hairstyle. What is your hair, regimen? What do you do?
Okay, so obviously I have the shaved. I've decided many years ago to go with the shaved head. And what is unique about my hair regimen, however, is that I shave my head with a racing car.
Now,
that's right, a racing car.
All right, walk us through that, because that seems...
we got to see this.
Yeah. For our audio podcast listeners, this is going to be a little difficult. But for our video crew, it looks just like this.
Oh
it is a fancy, sporty racing car, 2 wheels on the front, and instead of back wheels for our audio listeners, it is a blade. And so you drive, you put it on your finger, and you drive the front wheels across your head, dragging the blade across your head, thereby staying flat and smooth on your scalp and getting a nice shave down. And by the way, it works so much better if you have to also make the racing noise, like a little, if you make the car noise as it goes, it actually shaves closer.
When you make the noise.
So Dave, where does a person find such a fun little thing?
You know what, this is, you can find these pretty much, you put that into your little Google search, and on Amazon is where I get them. But that's hard to beat that right there.
I've never seen one of those in my life, and as a cranial compadre, I'm gonna have to see. I'm sorry, but I would completely nick myself. There would be so much like blood loss from the use of that on me. I would have to go to the hospital. So tip of the cap.
I have a lot of faith. I have a lot of faith in you, Drew.
Okay.
I might just send you one.
Thank you, Dave.
Car helps.
Thank you. That means a lot that you have faith in me and my ability to shave my head. There you go. So since we're talking about things on the edge, as an edgy educator yourself, teach like a pirate. Listen, let's just go there, right? So we talked about it at the first episode, but we want to know now, like, what's the current state of educational piracy? Is anything lighting you up right now, setting your sails on the high seas that you're just like, oh man, this is it?
Yeah, so I'm always super excited about the new projects that we have coming out. And so that's what I'm fired up about. I used to be most fired up about spreading my message. I am still fired up about spreading my messages, but now I'm also kind of my real focus is trying to find people doing amazing work and amplifying their message. So the current status for me is always on the lookout for that next person, that next book, that next project that can get into the hands of educators and help them, deal with whatever the current reality is.
Yeah. So the more, as I say, you're trying to spread messages and not guacamole, just to get that clear.
Yes.
So when you're looking for, and we're going to jump into this, when you're looking for an author, someone with a message, what are you looking for as a prolific publisher? What advice would you give to someone looking to write an educational book? What would you say?
Yeah. So one of the first things I always want to know is, are they speaking about it? Are they talking to the people? Have they done a workshop on it? So a lot of times people will come to me and say, like, I want to write this book. I'm like, okay, great. Like, have you ever spoke on this topic before? And they'll say, well, no, that's after the book. I want to do the book first. And then it's like, well, hold on. Let's switch that around a little bit. Why don't you go out and get in front of a real audience? Get in front of an authentic audience with your message. See what lights up that audience. See what what resonates with them. See what slide you put up, and everyone puts their phone up and wants to get a picture of. What questions do people come up to you and ask you about afterwards? Or when you look at your social media feed, like what's the part of it that resonated and that was the majority of people found to be the most intriguing for them or most practical, right? And that's how you start to shape and hone your message. And so it's really easy to be pumped up about something in the privacy of your home. Right. But when you get it in front of that authentic audience, then you see like, oh, maybe I'm focusing on the wrong thing. Maybe what the audience really wants is this over here. And so I always want people who have been in front of their other people with their message. And then the other thing that we always focus on for me is practical. Yes, we want it to be inspirational, but I ask myself, what is someone going to do different next week after they read this book? Like, is there practical takeaways that are going to actually reach schools, classrooms, and kids, not the theory book that sits pretty on the shelf? I want the book that's got Post-it notes sticking out of the top and highlights in it and notes written in the margin. And if you were to go into their classroom, they see implementation. One of my quotes, I said, inspiration without implementation is a waste, right?
That's
So
true.
it's one thing to inspire, but it's another thing to get actually move the needle and get implementation and get these ideas in front of kids. And so we're looking for those practical takeaways and things that people can actually do.
Yeah, yeah. Is there a practical strategy right now that you've seen either through, and you don't have to reveal specific authors if you don't want to, if there are like manuscripts on the way, but if there is there a strategy that you're like, oh yeah, this is an up and comer strategy that's like on the horizon, people got to watch out for. That's really cool.
I'll tell you, yeah, I'll tell you one thing that I'm really intrigued with right now is I just published a book with Matt Miller called
Hmm.
AI Literacy in Any Class.
Oh, let's go
And
there. Yeah.
yeah, and so one of the things that he really focuses on is that rather than talking about AI literacy as a separate subject, it's something that should be embedded into everything that we do, and that really the core skills that we're interested in students being able to do are the same core skills that we wanted them to do before, with us now redirecting that towards AI. And basically, like for example, evaluation. How do you evaluate a source? How do
Yeah.
you know whether that source is biased? How do you know that it's correct? And that's the same thing that we wanted kids to do with sources before AI. And so why would we not be focusing on that with AI, right?
Yeah.
And so he's trying to tell teachers that a lot of the things that you already want from kids, all that you've already been talking to kids about, it's the same stuff now with AI. We want them to be able to revise their work and to rewrite like early drafts, right? Well, when
Yeah.
AI comes up with something, why would we want them to revise and work on that and to and use that as not a final product, right? And so
Yeah.
I'm really intrigued with this idea that people are scared of AI,
Mm.
this whole idea of AI literacy for no reason, when really this is just it just fits right in with all these other tools that have come along the line, and that we just have to learn how to more effectively use.
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, this book, like you said, AI literacy. Like I've seen that book jacket out there, so I'm excited to learn more about it. So, do you think that we are walking away from the fear of AI and walking more towards its usability and feasibility in classes, or are we still is the world still out there more like, ooh, I'm not so sure.
I think there's a split down the middle. I
Okay.
think there's still a lot of people that are fearful, um, and I think it's one of those things where the what do they say? Like the cat is out of the bag. It's like
Mm,
the like you can wish for AI to go away, and you can wish for it not to have an impact on our world, and that might be great, but it's too late. Like this
yeah.
is going to be something that's a part of our kids' future. It's a part of and not just our future, our today, our reality right now,
Hmm.
let
Hmm.
alone the future, right? And so it's only going to become bigger. It's going to become more of a thing. And so it's one of those subjects where you, as an educator, you either abdicate responsibility for your role in helping kids deal with this new reality, or you to it and step into the idea that like, hey, this is something that is absolutely a part of their lives, and I would like to be at the table and helping them process this and helping them learn how to use this in ethically and effective ways. And so I think that educators, I think leaning in is the way to go.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just like when you're shaving your head. It's something that you have to learn how to do, and there may be some little cuts along the way, but you still have to get the job done, right? So there you go. How early do you think we should start with AI education? I'm thinking of grade bands like elementary, middle, high school. Is it something like the earlier the better, or is it something like now let's walk towards this as kids mature a little bit? I mean, where do you stand on that, or is that even a relevant question?
No, I think it's very relevant. I mean, it's the reality of what teachers are having to deal with right now. Like when
Yeah,
we started talking about it, and first of all, I absolutely like Matt would be a great guest on your show. I think he would be wonderful.
cool.
And he's the expert. Becky Keene is another one. Becky Keene wrote AI Optimism for us. She's an expert in these areas. So those would be two great possible guests. So I don't definitely position myself as an AI expert,
Sure.
but from what I'm seeing and reading, I would lean towards bringing these things up and talking about them. The earlier, the better.
Cool, cool. Um, so I'm thinking about other stakeholders that we serve in our schools. We obviously we serve families, and obviously we serve students, and we also work with leaders ourselves and stuff like that. Is there any, does your Teach Like a Pirate obviously translates to the classroom and best practices with that? Is there anything like family like a pirate? Like I'm just thinking about like, how does your advice for teachers, for instance, does that ever translate to what families can do under their roofs? I'm thinking about my own school. We always talk about, thanks for your support on the home front as we do as we work, here at the schoolhouse. So families and Teach Like a Pirate, is there any crossover or could there be?
Yeah, yeah, I think so. So this is like one of, for example, the I of Pirate stands for immersion, and it's your ability to immerse yourself into the unfolding moment, into what you're doing. And
Yeah.
this is something that I drive when I finish the immersion section, when I'm doing a workshop, I say like this is not only the because I positioned as the top secret way to become a better lover, right?
Okay.
And
Yeah.
so, but it's not just the top secret way to become a better lover; it's top secret way to become a better teacher, better parent, better human being as well.
Yep.
And so when you think about how many times we're distracted with our children and trying to juggle too many things at once rather than just like putting like, hey, right now, the most important thing in the world needs to be this time that I spend with my child or with my family or whatever it might be. That ability to immerse into the unfolding moment and to be fully present with someone is magical. It's hypnotic. It has this like, it's like this mesmerizing power. When you're actually with someone who you sense is fully there and immersed with you in whatever it is that is happening, is unbelievably mesmerizing. And that's something that I'm trying to encourage teachers to do with their students. But absolutely, that applies to families as well. And by the way, the R of Pirate is rapport, how to build rapport in relationships, which is a direct match with parenting and family and all that as well.
And that's go ahead.
Oh, Dave, for our, if there, which we're going to say there's not, but if there's anyone in our audience that hasn't read Teach Like a Pirate, what are your, we know it transfers across multiple pieces, right? So what are your, again, narrow it down to two. What are your two favorite things from that book? Because you've had it for, I remember reading it a bazillion years ago. So many.
He's not that old. Goodness gracious, Dr. Hand.
No, that's true.
Well, I read it. So what are, if you had to distill it down to like, these are my two favorite things from Teach Like a Pirate, what are those? Let's generate some excitement here.
Yeah. So there's a quote that I love from the book, which is very awkward to say, right? When you're like quoting, it's like you're quoting yourself. This is one of my favorite quotes from the book. Provide an uncommon experience for your students, and they will reward you with an uncommon effort and attitude. And so if you want to get some sort of uncommon results out of students, then you have to be an uncommon teacher. You have to provide them something that is not ordinary or common and stand out and create that experience for them. And the first episode that I did with Drew, we talked about this whole don't just teach a lesson, create an experience. Lessons are easily forgotten, but experiences live forever. So how can we transform things into experiences? So that's the first thing that I would mention. And then the other thing that I really enjoy talking to teachers about is this idea. I have this barbecue and steak analogy about teaching. And it's basically this, like if you came to my house for dinner and I came out to you with a plate and had a raw steak on it, you wouldn't be very happy with me right now. Why? Because it's uncooked. It's not edible for you right now, right? Because I never turned on the propane. I never brought any heat or energy to it. So it's not edible for you right now. And the same thing is true in school. You can have the finest content in the world, but if you never turn on the propane, if you don't bring the heat or energy to it, it's still not edible for kids. And by the way, if you were really coming to my house for steak, I would have contacted you before you got there to find out if you would eat steak. And if you didn't eat steak, I would have provided you a suitable alternative. Okay, that's a whole different workshop. But by the way, even if you did like steak, before you got there, I put a little rub and seasoning on it. I would soak it in a flavor of marinade. And then before I put it on, I would preheat my grill. I don't put my steak down on a cold grill. I preheat my grill. When you drop your steak on a cold grill, nothing happens. But when you drop your steak on a preheated grill, what happens?
You get those lines.
It sizzles.
Evidence. I
want my content to sizzle when it drops. So I always preheat the grill, building that mystery, curiosity, buzz, and anticipation, right? And then when I serve you, I'd offer you some side dishes to go with it, a beverage or drink. And when all that was over, I would offer you dessert. And that's what we call a meal. That's what we call a dining experience. But too often, people in education will tell you that the beverage, the side dish, the dessert, all that's not the content that we're trying to cover. No, but all that stuff is surrounding the content that makes it so that when you come to eat a meal with me, you want to come back and dine with me again. Well, that's what we want. We want to create the kind of lessons that kids enjoy and want to come back and learn with us again. So it's not just the content that's important. It's everything that you create around that content to draw them in, make it more engaging for them, make it more meaningful for them. And so we have too many teachers who know everything about their content, right? But they just walk into class and drop the raw steak on the ground and say, eat it. Not good enough, right? You have to be able to, you really need to get into the presentational aspects of your lesson. So you have content. I look at teaching as a triple Venn diagram. There are 3 interlocking circles. One of those is content. Hey, we have to have that circle, or we're just entertainers or babysitters, right? We have to have that circle. But there's lots of ways to learn your content. There's books about content, professional development about content, conferences about content. Then there's a second circle, techniques and methods. Mm-hmm. We have a whole toolbox of techniques and methods as educators that we got from our credential programs, from our colleagues, from trainings, and lots of books have been written about the techniques and methods to teach. They're fine books, right? But then there's a third circle that a lot of people don't talk about, and I've got a zeal to travel and talk about. That third circle is what I label as presentation. Mm-hmm. So yes, you know your content. Yeah, you got all these techniques and methods. But now how are you going to present it in such a way that it's engaging for kids? How are you going to present it in such a way that it's relevant for them? How are you going to present it in such a way that it draws them almost magically or magnetically into what you're doing in your classroom? That's the third circle of Teach Like a Pirate.
There you go. All right, I've got to rewind all that in my mind, right? Make sure I didn't miss anything. So we got ourselves, like you said, I think I got the quote, provide an uncommon experience and students will reward you with an uncommon effort. There was
an attitude.
An attitude. There you go.
I missed that one during.
There you go. And then, of course.
Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
You know, teachers know that they might have students in their class that are a living nightmare for other teachers. Constantly, like that kind of stuff. And then, I would have some of those kids, and I would hear these stories about these kids. I'm like, I don't know what they're talking about. Like, that kid's amazing in my class. I love that kid. Right. Well, what's the difference? Well, I think I'm providing something that's uncommon for them, treating them in an uncommon way, providing this uncommon experience for them. And then they, in turn, after having experienced that from my end, are giving me something that's uncommon in the way that they treat other authority figures in their life, perhaps, right?
Yeah.
And so I think that's kind of what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. It is interesting. And I think about my building and I can walk by certain classes and I can hear those uncommon experiences and I can also hear the common ones. And it's interesting how that happens. And then of course, like the steak analogy, I remember that from hearing you speak way back in the day, again, not billions of years ago, like some people might say, but
it was a million.
But yeah, that makes so much sense. And I almost think like what you said, like the grill's got to be hot from like a presentation side. I also would say like when we talk about evidence of learning, well, when the grill is hot, you've got those lines on the steak. That's evidence of impact. That's evidence that the presentation has made an impact. So that goes right along with that same analogy. Oh my goodness gracious!
I think too, something else that Dave said, but he didn't say, was the backwards planning part of it.
Yeah, like like asking beforehand.
You're coming over, I'm going to ask you beforehand. So with planning with the end of it in mind too is another key takeaway from that.
Agreed. So I'm going to ask a dangerous question because there's every time of the year, every single school year where we get to a certain joyful part of the year, and that is state testing side. What would you say to someone who would say, well, that's all nice and good, all this, piracy and stuff, but how does it really get kids ready for state testing and elevate scores? That voice is out there, Dave. I'm not that voice, but somebody else is out there. What would you say to that person?
Yep. Well, I'm sorry to repeat something from the last time we spoke, but I never said saying it's my last. So, and basically it's this, it doesn't matter what you say if nobody's listening. Teach all you want. Bell-to-bell instruction. Deliver all the content that you want. But if it's not engaging, if kids aren't, if they aren't attending to it, if they aren't, I don't care what you say. I care what kids learn. I care what kids walk out the door with. Okay. And so it always is going to come back to creating powerful learning experiences for kids. Okay.
There you go.
You can, so it's like, I love it when people give me grief about focusing on student engagement. Like I said, like, you focus too much on student engagement. What about this, then this, that? Hey, it's the cornerstone of what we do.
Right.
And so,
right.
You can use any technique you want, talk all you want, know everything about your content. I care what kids walk out the door with. And in order for them to walk out the door with it, they need to have an engaging and powerful learning experience. And if you focus on those, the test scores take care of themselves. Why? Because then if they learn it the first time and they learn it in a solid fashion, then you have to spend less time reteaching. You have to spend less time in review. So you're actually, by putting that time on the front end to create powerful learning experiences, you actually save yourself time in the long run because you have to do less reteaching and less review.
Dave, do you think there's a disconnect between people when you say create learning experiences, that they think that you're on this kind of like realm of everything's just going to be, I hate to use the word fun, as opposed to you can have an engaging learning experience that's completely engaged, like grounded in the standards and rigor.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, rigor increases engagement. Do you think there's a disconnect between people understanding the way that you're putting it out there versus what happens when the rubber hits the road?
But for sure, that's true. First of all, I don't mind using the word fun.
It's a dangerous F word.
I love that word.
Yeah, I love making school fun for kids. I know I never run from that. But it does not have to be a circus in order for students to be wildly drawn in and engaged with what's happening, right? And you just think about something like movies. It's not just comedies that are engaging. Across all genres of movie, it could be mesmerizing and draw you in. So there's lots of ways to engage and and again, having kids own the learning and see the relevance of what they're doing is a big part of it as well. And that's like something that Daniel Pink used to talk about, right? It's like you have what's motivating is something that gives you a sense of mastery, some sort of purpose behind it, and that you actually are making some of the choices and having some sort of ownership of the learning experience, right? And so, it doesn't. So and this is something I actually say in the workshop, is that you don't have to be a running up and down aisles, do somersaults and cartwheels kind of teacher like I am. That's my personality, and I'm very over the top and dramatic and energetic in the classroom. But that is what is unique about me, right? So what is unique about you will always be what makes you the most powerful in the classroom. And I'm capitalizing on these human nature kind of ideas that are engaging just across the board. So like for example, if something is hidden and you're like building up the fact that they can't see what it is, well, at that moment of reveal, what will happen? All eyes will be right there, right? Because it's human nature. We want to know what this thing that's been hiding, it's been hidden from us, right? Teach like a pirate. It's not about the somersaults and the cartwheels. It's about tapping into things which are engaging just as human beings. And so I never want people to think that I'm trying to go around and create Dave Burgess clones, because that's not going to work for them, right? And so, and when they see me speak, what they are seeing, and this is super important, they're seeing a highlight reel of my classroom. I am stringing together, one after another, some of the most engaging ideas that I do in order to demonstrate these techniques for them. And I'm actually treating them as if they're the audience, they're the student, and performing these things for them, right? So they're seeing a highlight reel of my class. What they don't see is, of course, I'm not going to stand up and do a keynote and have them do a collaborative group project. Of course, like how many keynotes will I get hired for if I did that, right? And so they are actually seeing me put on very much a show based on a highlight reel of my class. But the reality of my classroom on a day-to-day basis, minute per minute, is not going to look like that.
I think that's a really cool way though to think about, like from a teacher perspective, like what is my highlight reel going to look like
Hmm.
from this lesson?
Right.
You
No,
know,
that's a great.
as you know, depending on if you're in a block period, like what are my activities? What's my highlight?
Yeah.
I like that idea, Dave, to think of it that
Yeah.
way.
And it goes along too with something else I heard you say, like, if your class was a movie, would anyone buy tickets to see it?
I've heard Dave say
Yeah.
that.
You know what I mean? And so, like, it's almost like you want, I know you're talking about when you present in front of an audience and giving them the highlight reel of your, best strategies. But I'm also thinking about teachers should have kids walking around the hallways like, oh man, I can't, you gonna remember what we did last week? Man, oh my gosh, I can't wait to go to that class again. So it should be like they should be reliving and talking about it as if the opening credits are like, oh my gosh, here it comes. So I think there's a lot to say about the cinematic or performative aspects of what we do, the dramaturgy, if you will, of education. I think there's some value in that. Obviously,
And that goes
go
that
ahead.
goes to that preheating the grill. That goes to preheating the grill then too. Is that like what are you saying today that makes them
Yeah,
excited about coming tomorrow?
yeah,
And so when you go to the movies these days, you don't even see the movie for like 15 minutes. What do you
mm,
see? You see previews, you see
yeah,
trailers. Why?
yeah,
Because they work. They make people want to see what's coming out. Well, I work hard to make kids want to see my class. I'm building up these lessons ahead of time. I'm talking about like, oh, you don't want to miss Friday. On Friday, and I'm like, I'm trying to create that sense of anticipation, that buzz, that get
yeah,
them like, I can't like, did you hear what he said? Like, I can't wait to get here on Friday. Like, that's the kind of thing I'm talking about with preheating the grill. So that's
yeah,
these are the kind of things that don't take a lot of extra time.
mm,
So it's just a different way of thinking about it. So if you go
yeah,
back to those three circles, what do we always spend our time as teachers working on and collaborating around? Content, technique, and method. Content,
yeah,
technique. How often do we get together as professionals and talk about presentation
mm-hmm,
and say like, yeah,
mm-hmm,
okay, sure, we're going to teach this and we're going to use this technique, but like, how are we going to present it to them that gets them wound up and fired up
yeah,
about it, right?
yeah,
So I'm trying to get teachers to move out of just, there's nothing wrong. So like I said, if you don't have circle one content, you're just an entertainer or a babysitter. That's not good
yeah,
enough, right? That's
yeah,
not what we're talking about. You have to have technique and method. I'm not talking about not having that. Like that's super important, and I love those books. But let's also take a little bit of time and talk about these presentational things too.
yeah.
Mhm.
And I think it's important to go along with that is giving yourself time to do that reflective work. I think that sometimes, and I'm going to sing the praises of one of my teachers at my school. I can't say her by name, but like, we sat down at our, one of our post observation conferences that we have, very formal things. And we talked about like her reflective practice. And she said, I keep a a document open for every single lesson that I have, and every single day. And I thought, wow, every single day she goes back and makes notes about each lesson. But that takes time. So it's nice to think about, like you said, the three circles of what needs to happen, but having a system, being consistent about that practice, and then I would even say member checking with somebody else. You know what I mean? Share that reflective practice with somebody else. How do you think the lesson went? What do you think about these notes? Time is such an important factor, that is a rare resource for teachers.
And Jess, super powerful what she does because again, it's that reflective, stepping back and having that reflective moment. And this is one of the things that I mention to teachers all the time is like, there's nothing wrong with a failed lesson.
Yes.
I've had them all the time, right?
Yep.
There's nothing to be embarrassed about. There's no shame in a failed lesson. The problem is the same lesson failed the same way over and over again, right? Because you didn't step back and have that analytical, reflective, self-reflective moment of saying like, how many times like you teach something, you're like, this didn't work last year either. Why am I even doing this again, right?
Yeah.
So that's the place where you can be. Sometimes people say like, where should I start with innovation? Like if I want to really try to innovate and do something different, where should I start? And one of the best answers for that is like, well, what lessons were a flop last year? What lessons didn't work last? It already didn't work. You're not risking anything. It didn't work last
Yeah.
year. So when you try something new this year, you have nowhere to go but up, right?
Yeah.
So like find your worst lessons. Find your worst lessons and like say, you know what? I'm just going to try something totally new. This unit was horrible last year.
Right.
So maybe that's the unit that you want to start with and seek some innovation and creativity for.
Yeah, yeah, and that takes some psychological vulnerability too to say to yourself, "Yeah, this really did stink, and I do need to make some changes." And I'm not going to nerd out on this, but a real, sexy topic, master scheduling, right? Because I think the message for administrators with this is if the commodity of time is so precious and so important for teachers to do this reflective work, please make sure teachers have adequate planning time and that planning time is protected. Because and don't get it interrupted by class coverage, which I know is a reality, or always putting a fire drill in someone's planning period. Like teachers will lose their minds and not be able to do that critical work. So that anyway, as a master schedule guru, Dr. Ann, anything to add on to that point?
I think in addition to the protected planning time, the protected collaboration time, because what Dave is talking about is really great when people are super reflective on their practices individually. But when they can go into a collaborative meeting and say, my lesson was horrible. Help me with this. What ideas do you have? And they build that collective efficacy, the creativity that can come from the group, or the synergy that comes from a group that can collaborate together, generates amazing things for students. You see it when you've got really good co-teaching pairs. You see it when you've got really great PLCs, interdisciplinary teams. They can generate the best things, but it comes through a true sense of collaboration.
Cool. Yeah. There you go.
There's lots of things we can talk about. But
yeah.
Like when a teacher says, like when I was talking about it's okay to fail, like if a teacher says, well, I haven't failed in my classroom recently. There's two possibilities of what's going on there. The first is that they're delusional because we all fail, right? And then the second is maybe they're playing it too safe. And safe lessons are a recipe for mediocrity, plain and simple. So if you never know where that edge, if you don't ever know where that edge is, you have to be willing to fall off. And in our work, it's not a big deal because they come back the next day and you make it right.
Yeah, true.
And so you have to learn to see that failure as feedback. Everything that happens in the classroom is feedback. They're providing you the real-time feedback to help you improve and hone your practice. So like pirates don't yell at the wind. Pirates don't curse the wind. Pirates read the wind. They shift their sails and they go. And so the wind of the classroom is that student response and feedback that we get from them. Like you don't ask wind to change. You read wind and shift your sails to catch it, to get to where you need to go. So it's always super important. That's the A of pirate is ask and analyze. The ask is the questioning process that I have them go through, but then there's the analyze, being willing to analyze the results of your lessons and being willing to accept that feedback and make shifts and courses and changes to where you want to go. It's never a straight line sailing for treasure, right? It's always you're reading maps and course and wind changes and different currents and things like this. Same things in the classroom. The current is constantly shifting, the wind is constantly shifting, and you at the helm are having to read these things and make real-time decisions about how you're going to change your instruction, your delivery, and all these kind of things in order to get to where you need to go. And so like having that straight, like this is the only way I can teach kind of mindset is never going to be the most effective mindset. You have to be willing to take these factors into consideration.
Yeah. I always get a little cantankerous when teachers have that kind of mindset of, this is my lane, this is my aperture, this is where I am going. Yet you want students to do different stuff all day long. It's like you've got kids, are like you're asking them to be flexible, adaptable, work with others, collaborate, but yet, no, I think I'm just going to do it this way. Oh,
yeah. The same thing's true when like how many teachers bash their students over the head with the growth mindset. Like you have to have a growth mindset. It's like, I'm not good at math. And you're like, whoa, wait a second. You're not good at math yet. And then we work with them to build their confidence and their skill and give them closer approximations to what we want them to be able to ultimately accomplish and get them to where they need to go, right? But then that same teacher, you're like, well, so we have this new technology. Oh, I'm not good at technology. Like, oh, wait a second. You're not good at technology yet, right? Let's have a growth mindset that you always harp on your students about, right? So that
is an important note.
We have one last question, Dave.
Ah, nice.
I'm going to do a shout out first, though. I was going to do a question, but I'm trying to be cognizant. So, congratulations on 200.
Oh, thank you.
So
Okay.
for our listening audience, if you don't know, Dave publishes books and just celebrated the publishing of book number 200, right?
That's right. Yeah.
Right.
I'm already at 202. But yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah.
That's just a few days ago.
Right.
Yeah. No. So that was super fun, and I'll give a shout out to Tisha Richmond about something, and she said, like, I had mentioned something to her that this was Becoming the Bison was the name of the book by Kim Gamrose, and so it's actually book 200, and she said, have you said anything about that? I'm like, no. She's like, hey, that's something worth, like, you have to, like, you should celebrate that. You should announce that. Like, don't let moments like that go. And so we're so ready and easily skip over sometimes our own achievements and things that we're a part of. And so I'm thankful that she said, like, no, like, take a second, stop, like, put that out there and, like, celebrate that.
And I think we're really bad at that in education in general. We don't do a good job of celebrating our successes because we're always busy having to chase the next thing, or like there's another deadline or there's another thing coming up. And I think all the way from the classroom all the way up, we lose sight of the celebrations.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. And not just and what's so cool is not just the quantity, the number, of course, is also, like, obviously really, really cool. But the fact that you've, and to use your own words, amplified people's voices, these ideas that were, incubating in people's minds and had promise and potential, like that you used your publishing world and publishing savvy to make them come to fruition. And I think that those books have helped countless people. So if those 200 books had not come into publication, where would we be today? There you go.
One of the things I'm proud about is that early on, it was a focus on practitioners. Like there was always kind of this gatekeeping that went on in publishing. We had to have some certain status in order to have a book. And one of the things that I really focused on was, like, no, you know what? We have educators out there in the roles, like principals who are writing about principalship from the office, teachers who are writing about teaching from the classroom, and really doing it and trying to elevate the voice of practitioners.
Yeah. All right. So I know that Ann said that was the last question, but I've got a fast five.
Let's go.
No explanation. Just going to hit you with a question, and we'll see where the mind of Dave Burgess goes. You ready?
Let's go.
Favorite historical figure?
Macom X. Love talking about Macom X, and his life is perfect to show students and people how you can transform over the course of a lifetime.
Absolutely. One of the favorite books I ever read in high school, Autobiography of Malcolm X. Oh my gosh. All right. Favorite trip to go to, either real or imagined?
I am a huge Hawaii fan. I love Hawaii. I think it's magical. It's one of my favorite places in the world. And so, and I'm going to be going there on April 26th. I'm running a half marathon in
well, good for you. There you go. Well, mahalo.
Mahalo
to you. All right. Favorite concert or first concert?
I'll go with first concert. My first concert was, I went to what was that time called the Fresh Fest, and saw, it was, if I remember everybody, it was, I think, Houdini, the Fat Boys, Run DMC headlined it, and a few others. I think maybe, I don't remember if LL Cool J was on there or not, but there was definitely Houdini, the Fat Boys, and Run DMC.
Did you rock a Kango?
That was my first concert. You know what? I had a white Kango. I did not wear it at the Fresh Fest, but I had a very lean, crisp white Kango.
There you go. Very nice. Very nice. All right. And then what was your favorite subject in school?
My favorite subject in school? My favorite subject in school was English, I believe.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. All right. Well, then that begs the last question. I know I said it was only favorite five, but I got to go more. Favorite book then? Back in the day.
Wow. Oh, back in the day.
Yeah, like English was your favorite class. Like, go there. Was there a book? Was there a poet? Was there a play? Are we talking a little bit of Raisin in the Sun? Are we talking about a little Steinbeck? Where are we going?
No. So I do remember the Autobiography of Malcolm X from college. I read that one. Alex Haley. But I remember. So there was 2 books that I loved that were in kind of. This was in my radical period, right?
Okay.
And
Yes.
so there was. I think it was called "Seize the Day" or "Seize the Time" by Bobby Seale, and "Revolutionary Suicide" by Huey Newton.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And so those were all part of that same. Like those 3 books were right in that same kind of time period for me, and kind of transformed a lot of how I look at things.
You know what? I think we would probably find the same if we had library cards together. We probably would have checked out the same stuff. There you go. Well, hey, Dave Burgess, thanks for taking on that Fast 5 or Fast 6, whatever it ended up being. But thanks for being here once again on the Fearless Schools podcast today. You know, as the great poets and philosophers Laverne and Shirley once said, you were making our dreams come true for me and you.
You never know what's going to happen with him, do you, Ann?
Never.
Listen. You never know when Lenny and Squiggy are going to come by the house. You never know. Listen, our audience, you know what they were doing. They were deep in the chicken coop of teaching and learning, and they were looking for eggs. I tell you, and thanks to you, they found themselves a good old clutch. You know that clutch is the official term for a bunch of eggs, by the way. So Fearless Schools. Where am I going? Fearless Schools podcast listeners, you did it. You took time out of your listening lives to check out another Fearless Schools podcast brought to you by Creative Leadership Solutions. Be proud of yourself. Pat yourself on the back. Go to www.creativeleadership.net and then subscribe and share this podcast with everybody you know. Social media mavens and matriarchs, mad hatters and modest magistrates, merry wives of Windsor, whoever, whenever, wherever. Dr. Drew Tallman, host of your Fearless Schools podcast, wishing you well and always saying, stay fearless on the bright road ahead. Thank you so much. Thanks, Dave.
Thanks, Dave.
Absolutely. Pleasure joining.
Boom.